I'm Mary. I simply give a conservative perspective about the world around me, as I like to do in the beginning of the podcast, give you my social media plugs, and also my audio plugs that I'm on. So let's start with social media. I am on Twitter. You can simply find me at the Harboring Light, Twitter. And then I am on Minds. You can simply find me at the Harbor on Minds. And then I don't have my blue check mark, again, as I mentioned in a previous podcast. So you can also reach me through Gmail. So that's the Harboring Light at gmail.com. Now, on my audio plugs, I am on iHeartRadio. I am on Amazon Music and Audible. I am on Anchor. I am on Spotify. And I am on Overcast. And I'm looking to grow. And so wherever podcasts are available, you can find me. So the podcast for the topic for this particular podcast is coffee. So let's get into this. Coffee. And so the origin for coffee is considered to start with Ethiopia. And that starts around 800 AD. So it begins with the goat herder. So how the story goes, he was wandering around with his goats, and he noticed that his goats were acting very strange, and they were very energized after eating a particular berry. So after they started eating this, they started to become excitable and very alert. So he took these berries to monks, and unfortunately the monks weren't thrilled with it. They thought that it was a work of the devil, and they threw them into a fire. Okay? So when they threw it into a fire, this aroma, as it's alleged, just overbeared the presence in where they were. So by that, they were overtaken by it, and they realized that there was something to it. And so the monks, and they began drinking it with water and preserving it and figuring out what's all to this. And as it goes, they would do their nightly prayers and dedications that they had to do with their spirituality, and it would help them stay up, and it would help them with their religion as far as with what they wanted to do with the organization of coffee. And from this, the nomadic tribe is also tied into it. This is pronounced or Moa, I believe. Now the Gala people, they help to contribute to this organization as well, as far as the coffee trade. And so let's get into that segment of the coffee trade as far as how that went about. So it all started, as it alleged, in the Arabian Peninsula. So from that, Yemen came about. So there's a whole, also to add on to this, there's a whole school of thought of where coffee actually originated too. So some people think that it's Yemen, and some people think that it's only Ethiopia. So I'll dig into that even more so. And also all of this information will be and the links that I will add into this podcast, so you can find out more about it and find out more about all the sources that I'm covering in today's topic. So, in the 15th century, coffee began to grow in Yemen. And then in the district of Arab, by the 16th century, it started to spread into Persia, Egypt, Syria, and Turkey. And it was starting to become a welcome commodity in homes. People started to find this in public coffee houses, and this started to grow as far as was traditionally known as a coffee shop. And then you started seeing this appearing in as far as the Near East and so on. Now, the popularity of coffee houses was cultivated, and it was becoming more and more social and more driven as popularity as time went on. And even in these early social coffee houses, patrons would drink and engage in conversation, as you see in modern coffee shops. And they also listen to music, they watch performances, and so on. And all these things came about. It quickly came about as well. So, the Arab Peninsula became the Mecca in order to spread this about throughout the whole world. So let's get into Yemen. Now, the myth behind Yemen is particular to this story. So it's alleged that there was a mystic, and the mystic was traveling through Ethiopia, and presumably on a spiritual matter, as it is alleged. And he encountered some very energetic birds, and he noticed the way they were eating the fruit and everything of that nature. And from that, he began to go on a journey and a quest to understand what's behind these berries, and how did they get their energy, and everything from that. And that's how it's alleged of Yemen being the forefront of discovering coffee and the coffee plant. Many accounts of coffee's history dating back to the 19th century and earlier. The earliest credible evidence of human interaction with the coffee plant comes from the middle of the 15th century. This is, ties back into with the consumption of the monasteries of Yemen. So monks drank it in Yemen, and then from monks drinking this, the term mocha came about. That's another fact to add on to Yemen's history with coffee. So while today is most often associated with the chocolate-flavored coffee drinks such as mocha latte, it originally referred to the city of Mocha, on which Yemen's on which Yemen Red Sea coast persist. So that's an interesting fact to know. Also a major trade center for the mocha style coffee bean, a type of coffee prized for its distinctive flavor. And some believe that Marco Polo purchased coffee beans there during his voyages, and it wasn't until the 17th century that the knowledge of coffee and the term of mocha came about and spread to Europe. So that's an interesting fact as well to add with Yemen. Coffee in Europe. European travelers started to go to the Near East, and when they would go, they would see an unusual dark black beverage around the Near East. Now, by the 17th century, coffee had made its way to Europe and was becoming popular across the continent. Some people reacted to this new beverage with suspicion or fear, that because it was so bitter, and then, people had the connotation that it was satanic. And then of course, religion is involved in it, and the religion prospect of it is as this is said. So the local clergy condemned coffee when it came to Vienna in 1615. So the controversy was so popular that the Pope at the time was asked to intervene into this. So from this, he decided to taste the beverage for himself before making a decision about it. And after the decision, he gave the approval because it was so satisfying. Very interesting. Such controversies of coffee houses were quickly becoming centers of social activity and communication in major cities in England particularly. So in England, they would call these particular beginning coffee houses penny universities. And they sprang up, and because the alleged price of coffee at these penny universities were only 1 penny. You could get a cup of coffee for that much, and you could engage in all kinds of conversations. Was free to converse in these particular settings. And coffee began to replace the common breakfast drink beverages at the time. So particularly beer and wine were the beverages for breakfast at the time. So they drank coffee instead of alcohol beverages in the day to become alert and energetic. And from that, work began to improve as far as that being said. And by the mid 17th century, there were over 300 coffee houses in London, and many of which attracted like-minded patrons and merchants and aristocrats, artists, all types of people would come together in these particular coffee houses known as penny universities. So, how coffee spread in the America? The last part of this segment, not last but certainly not least, let's talk about America. So, in the mid 1600s, coffee was brought to New Amsterdam. Now, at the time, the British called New York New Amsterdam. So, they brought their coffee houses to New York, and it rapidly became popular and it spread, and it continued to become more of a favorite and more popular than the tea at the time, because the colonialists at the time, they revolted against the taxation on tea imposed by King George III. So out of this revolt, coffee was a very welcome commodity, and that's how coffee spread its influence and its popularity in America. Now, what are my thoughts on this? So I think coffee is just like music. It has a great way of bringing all types of people from every nation together, and their shared experience or non-shared experience together. And I think that's a powerful thing, and it's definitely something to consider when you're having your cup of coffee, and when you have even iced coffee or any type of particular coffee. It's definitely something to consider. Now, I'm reaching the end segment of this particular podcast. Hope you enjoyed what you heard. So, this was the Harboring Light. So, tune in and turn up. Thank you so much, and take care.